we welcome back Geoff Bagg from the Bagg Group. He's an employment specialist. How are you?
Good to be here.
Good to have you back. Now,
Thanks.
We're talking today about summer jobs. It is June the 26th.
Yeah.
So if you are a student who doesn't have a summer job yet, is it too late? Is it slim pickings?
Well, I think you're definitely in the third wave. So a lot of the companies, the larger companies, started way back in April looking. The university students are out. They've been out and doing pounding the pavement. So you're probably looking at more the high school students that are just finishing up now. They're in the third wave, and so there are still jobs out there, but they're going to have to work hard to separate themselves and to get the jobs that are left.
How are people, when you say that, when they have to separate themselves, is it something that you do through social media now, or are we still sort of applying for jobs in the same old way where you pound the pavement and have a paper resume?
You know what, I think a lot of people rely too heavily on social media, especially young people. And so it's time to go old school on this and to actually have resumes that pertain to the jobs themselves. Take the resumes out, hand them out, and see if you can actually meet with the hiring manager and go face to face. I think that will give you a real advantage over trying to apply through some other social media means.
That's such a good point, because I remember as a student I would literally hit store after store with my resume. And are you finding that young people are no longer doing that because they're relying on finding something on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn?
Definitely. There's the path of least resistance. It's less scary to go out than to ask for the manager and try to meet with somebody. But I think that's how you're going to separate yourself, by taking the time. And also even customizing your resume, going out and learning what do they need in that particular job. And if it's customer service, make sure they don't have to look to the second page to find that. Make sure it's up and prevalent.
Are there still some programs with the Government of Ontario that are available to people, or other programs?
There are. So it's good to go and take a look. There's a provincial government site. There's the federal government. The library system has something called RAMP. YMCA has a site. And then even going and looking at staffing firms out there, they often have sites and they're recruiting and looking for positions. So that's another option.
What are some of the...
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you don't need the income, and I know that's most people do, but is it wise? Would it be you'd be wise to go out and volunteer in some capacity?
Actually, that's a great option. So if you're having a hard time finding a job, it really is more about the experience. Obviously, you can make money the rest of your life, but it is about the experience. So go out and volunteer. It's
in an
a great
area
option.
where you think it's going to pay off down the road. That
For
pertains
sure.
to the path you're on.
But even as students, isn't it so competitive that actually will give you an edge now to differentiate yourself from other students?
So you've got
Definitely.
that in your curriculum vitae. Oh, you've done volunteer work here and here. That's important to some employers.
Well, I think it's important just to show the experience that employers want to see that you've done something and that it's relevant. So if you can tie that in, I think anything from flipping burgers to helping out in community organizations, it can all be relevant.
Well, I was going to say, when you were talking about putting together a resume, but if you're a high school student, what do you put on a resume? You probably have very limited experience. Or are you putting like even clubs you belong to in school and things like that?
Definitely. And again, going back and focusing what's needed for that particular role and then bringing that out. So if it's teamwork, you could focus on what you've done on a sports team. Go out and show that. And again, employers will know that. If you're a high school student, they're not expecting you to have jobs that clearly you've never had. But if you go out and you show a positive attitude and focus on what you can do for the employer, you can set yourself apart from somebody.
I think you're right, Geoff. I think you've got to put yourself right in their face.
For sure.
Not in an obnoxious way.
No.
But you've got to somehow differentiate your personality from this slew of papers or files they've got online, right?
Definitely, there's a lot of competition. Actually, you bring up a good point too. When you get in their face, don't tell them that you're there because you need money. Everybody needs money. That's why you're there for a summer job. Get in there and talk about what you can do for their company. What have you seen? If it's a retail outlet, what kind of people go in the store, and how would you contribute positively to the environment?
And maybe do your research too, so you bring some information to show that you know something about the company.
For sure.
Do you have some insight, though? Most kids will say, okay, I'm going to work at a fast food restaurant or at the CNE or something like that. But do you have any insight into jobs that pay really well? Because, you can say don't worry about money, but it's a short season. And as kids, you do want to save up.
Definitely.
What would pay the highest? What job would pay the highest amount?
There's jobs if you can get them, and most of them I would imagine would be gone. But some of the ones that have to do with the government or quasi-government, municipal government, provincial
Parks,
government,
is it?
parks, recs, lifeguards,
Let's
things
talk
like
about
that.
some of the websites too that people might not be aware of. You have one, the Toronto Library has a good website for finding summer jobs called Ramp.
That's correct. Yes.
All right, and then also some hashtags that you should be looking at.
So hashtag summer job, hashtag Toronto, or Google summer jobs and Toronto together.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that'll bring up some resources that people might not have been aware of.
For sure.
One of the frustrating things with some of these jobs that they're connected with government is there seems to be a high degree of, and always has been, of nepotism in this.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, I got my nephew a job here working, pulling, you know, daffodil bulbs out of the beds for 3 months or like that. Some of those jobs seem to be gone before they're even out there.
For sure. So, you know what, maybe look more to the private sector. Again, I know this sounds self-serving, but I know that a lot of staffing firms are recruiting right now. And interestingly enough, I bought a company up in the north end of the city called Turnkey Staffing. They're recruiting in the auto parts manufacturing area. And some people are leaving their jobs right now during the summer to work for cash and do things like landscaping and other areas.
Right.
And that's actually leaving gaps where, you know, they're recruiting quite heavily. And so there are
Maybe
opportunities
they're
out
getting
there.
out of that into the underground economy so they can save some tax money. And there's a
You know,
few openings suddenly.
You know what? People are doing that, but that's creating opportunities for students, so that's a positive thing.
It's all good.
There you go. Geoff Bagg, thank you so much. He's an employment specialist with the Bagg Group. Nice talking to you.
Thanks. Good talking to you.